And when we come back, Spotlight continues. If you care about your pension, please stay close to your TV. Welcome back to Spotlight. The Trades Union Congress, which is popularly called the TUC, is demanding a total overhaul of the Social Security and National Insurance Trust, SNIT. Now, some of the reasons they've been given include disparities in pension and the low pension premium paid to public sector retirees. One of the people who has been speaking for the TUC is the Secretary General of the Congress, who is Dr. Yao Ba, and he has been speaking to the media about some of the reforms that they are asking for. Let's in fact just take a quick listen to what he has to say and come back to the discussion.
We are demanding the total overhaul of pension system in Ghana to be fair. The current system is unfair to many workers. A few privileged individuals are being paid huge sums of money from the SNIT scheme every month at the expense of ordinary workers who are contributing to the scheme from their meager salaries. You can't believe that one person earns 140,000 every month from a scheme which pays 300 Ghana cedis for people. And so the essence of Social Security and National Insurance is completely gone. What is Social Security about a scheme which pays 300 Ghana cedis? And I can tell you, if it were not the board which actually even push it further to 300, there will be some people who are earning 100 Ghana cedis or 150. Then somebody on the same scheme is earning 140,000. This does not exist anywhere. If it were an occupational scheme, it may be understandable. But on the Social Security and National Insurance Trust, we should change it. So, comrades, even workers who do not contribute towards the pension scheme, we have some workers in this country who do not contribute at all to pension scheme. They receive better pensions compared to those who are contributing to SNIT. This has to change, comrades.
You just listened to the TUC enumerating some of the issues they have there with the pension scheme. I'm going to come back in studio and speak with, we have Seth Abloso, who's a labor analyst. He's joining us via Zoom. We also have Michael Ayuriboya, who's Deputy Secretary of the National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRAT. Gentlemen, good evening and welcome to Spotlight. Can you hear me? Please unmute yourselves.
Good evening and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Michael,
yeah.
is that Michael?
Yes, I can hardly hear you. I can.
Okay, Michael, I can hear you loud and clear. Maybe I should speak louder. Can you hear me?
Sure. Yes, I can hear you.
Right, fantastic. So we just took a look at, good evening. We just took a look at what the TUC, the reasons they were giving for their call for reform of the SNIT pension scheme. I'm going to come to you in a moment to throw a bit of light on that. Now, first, you have listened to their secretary, and he has spoken about some interesting disparities there. Now, we have not fact-checked these disparities yet, but 130,000, he claims, some people receive monthly, while some receive as low as 300 cedis. Are you privy to this information?
Is the question to me?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yes, yes, yes.
Right.
That is how the situation looks like. Um, it's been like that for a while, and it was on the basis of that Labour had agitated, which led to the formation or the reformation of the pension scheme, bringing about the three-tier scheme. But it doesn't solve the problem. The difference between the public sector worker that is under SNIT, which is a social scheme, as against Article 71 holders and others, the disparity is just unthinkable. Yes, so we are aware. It's something that we know.
Now, doesn't this disparity depend on exactly how much the individual was contributing during their working life?
Yes, that is true. In the case of the social security, that is very true. But the worker does not determine his or her salary. It's not the fault of the worker that his salary is that low. Hence, his contribution is small. That leads to the sum that he's going to take as social security fund. It isn't the worker's fault. But if I may ask, for those who are under Article 71 and others, okay, both those approved under the Article 71 of the Constitution and those who have not been approved but yet are enjoying the Article 71 provisions, okay, is it as a result of their contributions?
Beyond these disparities with the figures, what are the other issues that public sector workers are facing with the scheme?
Hello?
Yes. I asked if there are other issues that public sector workers are facing where the scheme is concerned, beyond the actual figures, the disparity in the figures.
Yes. So at the moment, the problem we have is that since 2010, that the scheme was started, we have arrears of the money that should have been referred to our transfer from SNIT to our individual second-tier pensions, which were not done. And that past credit is creating a problem for us because it is supposed to be given to our second-tier pensions managers to invest. Yet that hasn't been given to us. So it's a concern. It's something that we have, over a period, been talking with government, and for that matter, SNIT. But it hasn't still yet been resolved.
When you say you've been speaking with government, is this the Ministry of Labour that you've been engaging?
Yes, we have engaged SNIT itself, a SNIT board. We have engaged the Ministry of Finance, which is directly involved. Of course, the Ministry of Labour and Employment cannot be unaware of this matter.
What are the reasons they are giving for this delay? Because you mentioned arrears since 2010. That's 12 years, if you look at the timeline. What's causing the holdup?
Well, I do not have, at this particular moment, the official direct quotation to their response.
Right.
But my view is that if that money were to be taken away from you, because SNIT has done so much investment, if that money was to be taken in cash and transferred to our second-tier managers, SNIT will not have the money. So it's all about the availability of the money that should be transferred.
Michael, how do we scale these challenges? Because there seem to be quite a number of issues with the system. Should the solution... How do we solve these problems? What approach is best for government?
Oh, sorry, I'm struggling to hear you.
What's the best approach to solving these problems?
Well, we have engaged. There is even a committee from organized labor that has worked on this matter for a while now. At this material moment, we have done all the engagement that I'm unable to even now think of what is the way forward than probably Labour deciding that once again we are going to take a radical decision to take government on as we Labour will normally do. Otherwise, all the engagements, the formal engagement that we have done, have not yielded anything all this while. In fact, that is precisely the reason why Forum was formed. You know Forum?
Yes, please.
Forum consists of CLOSAC, some public sector workers, CLOSAC, NAGRAT, NAT, CCT, Ghana Medical Association, Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives. I mean, we have come together to form Forum. That was exactly the reason that brought about the death of Forum. We fought this over the years, and it's still the way it is.
Thank you, Michael. I'll come to you in a moment. Let me just go to our labor analyst, Seth Abloso, who's also on the line. Seth, are you following?
Yes, I am.
Yes, Seth, if you listen to what Michael is saying, it paints a very dire picture, especially for the public sector workers. What's your take on the demand by the Trades Union Congress? Because labor unions have also been demanding for a drastic overhaul of the emoluments, especially of Article 71 holders. They are saying they need to create a fair pay policy system for public sector staff and bring restraint in the level of public spending on salaries and emoluments. Now, the Trades Union Congress has also joined the call, demanding for a review of the whole system. What do you make of it? As a labor analyst, is this something that you ascribe to, you support? If you can just reposition your video there for me so we can see your face properly.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you very much for having me. I must add that pensions have been very important in the life of workers. And therefore, in fact, all the reforms that have come since the days of the PNDC have been driven by workers' agitation.
Right.
Initially, the pension system we had was a provident fund system, where you got only what you put in plus a bit of interest. It's workers' agitation that led to, in 1982, to the formation of the committee that advised on the turnover to pension. So we had PNDC Law 247, which workers did not find satisfactory, and therefore the agitation that...
Okay, Seth, I think we're having issues with your line there. It keeps freezing. So we'll come back to you in a... Okay, can you hear me now? Hello, Seth, are you with us? Seth, I'll come back to you in a moment. Let's just try to stabilize your line. So I'll be back momentarily. But we have Nana Sifachum, who's Corporate Affairs Manager at the National Pensions Regulatory Authority, and he is on the line. Let me go to him and see if we can get some answers. This is the man we've been waiting for. Good evening, Seth.
Bide Darocha says it is up.
Hello, Seth. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I think he's still talking to you. So,
Seth, give me a moment. I'll come back to you because the line is very shaky, and we're just trying to stabilize the line. So I'll come to you shortly. My producer is working on that line. Give us a few minutes. Let me just quickly engage Nana Sifachum. Nana Sifa, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
They have, if you've been listening from the start of the show, I don't know if you've been listening from the start, but
unfortunately, I just joined.
Yes.
My line was not the best.
But I'm sure you're no stranger to the requests that are being made by the labor unions and now the TUC. We spoke with Michael Ayureboya from NAGRAT earlier, and he had a few complaints about the system. The requests that people are making is for a transformation and overhaul. They are citing some very worrying disparities. If you listen to the secretary of the Trades Union Congress, he mentioned some interesting figures there. Some people going home with 130,000 cedis monthly, and some going home with as little as 300 cedis. How come, are these disparities real? and how do
They
they
are, they
okay?
are, they are, they are, they are real. They are real. And even the 300 Ghana cedis that you're talking about, it is what the Senate institution calls the indexation, because every year they do something they call indexation, and then they top up for every single individual that is on their payroll.
Okay.
So if you look at those that are getting 300 Ghana cedis monthly, in reality, if it's not the indexation, they wouldn't have even gotten the 300 that they were supposed to have gotten. So that is extremely low, extremely low. There's no doubt about that.
But when you
And
say,
there's also
that
the
typically they wouldn't even be getting this, and they're getting 300 cedis monthly because there's some indexation there. Without this indexation, you say they wouldn't even be getting that much. Should we?
yes, they only have gotten that much. And let me explain in
Right.
a minute. Because some of these guys who are receiving 300 Ghana cedis today were people who retired some 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, 10 years back.
Okay.
So they were retired. The calculation was made on the amount that they were giving or contributing, so to speak, as per their basic salary. And at that time, if you are looking at that, then that will pay them around, if you like, 150 or thereabout. But now Senate is paying everybody above the
Minimum
current,
wage.
and I want to repeat that, the current minimum wage. So if that is not the case, then those people I'm talking about will not, or we are talking about will not get that much. And somebody is taking home 142,000 and over, 142,000 plus 700 every month. Ask me how come?
I
And
want
that
to know
is,
how come. It's an interesting figure there.
yes. And the how come is that, pension is what we look at by way of operating the computer when we say garbage in, garbage out. It's not the length of time that you have contributed, but primarily it's about the quantum of money that you contribute. For instance, if I receive about 20,000 Ghana cedis a month, and that is my basic 20,000 Ghana cedis, and someone receives let's say 1,500 Ghana cedis basic. If I'm contributing on my basic, the 20,000 Ghana basic, and somebody is also contributing the 1,500 Ghana basic, and the person contributes over 30 years, and I contribute just about 10 years, obviously I'm going to contribute more than the person, right or wrong?
Right.
Yes. So the calculation will be that. And if you are retiring, the calculation that the Senate will use is your best 3 years, average. So for instance, your best 3 years were 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. It means you are going to have 30,000 divided by 3, which is 10,000. And if you have somebody who was contributing or basic salary 10,000, 10,000, 10,000 3 times, that is going to be 10,000. And then your pension right is also very important. And what I mean by pension right is you look at the number of years the person has contributed. If the person is applying for reduced pension, for instance, when you are 50, 51, 52, 53, you can apply for pension at that age, and that would be reduced pension. And when somebody also applies for pension at the age of 60, which is the full pension, the pension rights will not be the same. So the percentage that will be used in calculating will not be the same. So if, for instance, I contribute higher quantum of my money, and then I also ended my pension at 60, obviously I'm going to take home better pension than the person who retired at 55 and also has less money by way of contribution to SNET. So these are some of the factors that we look and say somebody is taking home higher and somebody is taking home smaller. Another issue is most of the people that we call employees, they negotiate. So some of them have larger allowances. and smaller basic. But pension, especially in the first year, is calculated on your basic. So let's take for instance somebody who has allowances of about 15,000 Ghana cedis, which of course some people in this country collect as much as 15,000 Ghana cedis as allowances and have about 4,000 as basic. And your employee will tell you that let me give you higher quantum of allowance and smaller quantum of basic. And the reason is when you pay higher contributions, it means the employer has to pay more by way of the matching fund. So most employees do not want to pay more, and therefore they negotiate with the employees to pay lesser basic and more allowances. And if you do that, people continue to do that, and whilst they are working, they have much money, much money, but they don't invest, they don't do anything with it. And you know, when money gets into your hand, what we say in our parlance, "Sikaya family," it will tell you what you do with it. And within a twinkling of an eye, you realize the money is nowhere to be found. Yeah. You squander all the money, but forgetting that you have used all your allowances whilst you were working. So when you retire, you have little by way of your basic to rely on as your pension, and that will affect you. So people who pay more by way of contribution earn more at the end of their retiring age. So I think that is where the disparities come in. I don't know whether I've helped you.
You have made some very solid points, but the problem persists. Now, for the people at the bottom, the only solution is for them to get something that they believe is more reasonable. So these people, yes, what do we say to them? Should they even be content, rather, that the system is even topping up just to make sure that they're covered for basic salary? Or should we be reforming the mode of calculation?
Yes. The two things. If you ask me, two things. I think I agree with the TUC that the system needs some sort of restructuring, an overhaul of a sort, so that calculations may change, or salary structures of people working in the public service may change. May change because the allowances and everything that is earned during the month may be consolidated so that it can be put in pension. But right, for now, the law says that the what Senate can receive from any employer in the country is the basic. But if I work for MPRA, for instance, and I have my own business, a part-time business, which is registered with the Registrar General's Department, and I am paid every month, I can add that money that I'm earning elsewhere to my regular income on the same select number, and it will boost my pension at the end of my retiring age. So I think that the structure can be looked at, and then people can also look at the fact that what you are putting in must be bigger, perhaps than what you are taking home, so that at the end of the day, when the calculation is being done, it will be done on a bigger basic for you and not a very smaller basic as compared to what you're taking home as allowance every month.
Right. Mr. Sifa, there are some other requests that are being made, especially Article 71 office holders, an overhaul of their emoluments also. Is this something that you agree with?
I think I don't want to go there because that is not part of pension. I deal primarily with pension issues. Right. We regulate pensions. We don't regulate ex gratia among other things. We don't consider ex gratia as pension. Right. So I'm limited by way of speaking to this topic, please.
Right, Mr. Chum, thank you so much for those explanations. But if you can please stay on the line for me, I just want to bring in Seth Abloso, whose line was unreliable earlier, but we have him back on the line. Seth, good evening. Hello, Seth. Maybe unmute yourself. Okay, Seth, I'm not getting you at all, so I think I'm going to put you on hold again. My sincere apologies. I'll come back to you in a moment. But if Michael Ayureboya is on the line, I'll just come right to him. Michael, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you.
Do you want to respond in any way to Mr. Chum's clarifications?
No, I think Mr. Chum is right. We understand the calculations as he has elaborated. But the issue is that the workers are taking so low salaries that the contribution that you make, there is nothing you can do about it. That's why we are saying that pay us fair salary so that it can increase our contribution. For instance, a deputy director of education, okay, who takes a taxable salary of about 3,900 will pay tax of about 640 plus. I don't think it's not the person's fault or desire to have paid this, because in his take home, what is left, okay, it's not anything to go back. So we are saying that reform our salary structure. Let's review it, and then when we review it, it means that the pension contribution that we will be making will also appreciate. He's right to have said that some people have lower take home, but they have basic, but they have other allowances. Unfortunately, in the case of Ghana Education Service and teachers, we hardly have anything called allowance. So everything is on the basic, nothing.
So what's the right salary structure? Should we be looking at going, back to the single, reviewing the single spine structure?
Of course, that has been the point that Labour has made. And it has, yes, government has accepted, a committee has been formed to do the review. But unfortunately, we are not even happy with the committee that has been put up. Because you cannot bring people who don't earn single span salary to come and review single span salary sector. Master, do you get a point?
I totally understand you. You need people who are very familiar with the system.
So even as we speak, of course, you would have heard the Secretary General of the TC say that we have our eyes, our ears, and our minds on the review. But for us, even in Nagra, for us, we think that we should have stopped this process. We don't even allow them to come on board, and then we now struggle to change whatever we can change. Because it's from the beginning, it's already wrong that you bring people who are not on the single span salary sector to do a review for us who are on the sector. Yet we feel not adequately represented.
Are you able to engage with these persons that have been selected to review the structure?
Yes.
Okay.
And yes, we do.
So
the reason for which the Chief Secretary General made that statement.
Right. Do you have any idea that the time frame is going to take for these solutions to happen? Have you been briefed on how long it will take?
Well, personally, I don't have that at the moment. I may have to check that up. The time frame that the committee has to work on.
Right.
But whatever it is, I do not think that we are going to begin with when we go for the base pay negotiations. Because you see, the salary, first of all, for 2023 will have to appreciate. And then, moving forward, depending on whatever time the review committee work is done, then we can look at the way forward. But the immediate thing is that our base pay salary for 2023 must necessarily have a quantum rise for us to begin to feel that something can happen for our better.
Right, Michael. I'll be back in a moment to you again with some more questions, but let me engage Seth again, who we seem to have stabilized his line now. Seth, can you hear me? Hello, Seth.
I can hear.
Okay, this is great. This is great. You've listened to the demands. What's your take on the demands by the TUC and other unions?
In the first place, let me state that
the pension one receives depends on one's salary level and for how long one contributes.
Yeah.
That is the basis on which pension right is determined. So there can be disparities in the pensions that pensioners get, but it certainly depends on how much they put in during their working life. Our disappointment with SNIC could be from how investments are managed, because the funds are supposed to be invested to give returns, but the law also indicates how pensions are to be computed. We have had a forensic audit of SNIC in the year 2000, where, for instance, over 21 million US dollars was identified as having been misapplied or stolen. As we speak, one doesn't know what has become of those monies in terms of retrieving those monies. The forensic audit also indicated, for instance, in the CD equivalent, what has been misapplied is as at 2000, 183 billion cedis, 442 million plus. Now, I think it's important for organized labor to focus on how to retrieve stolen money from SNIC. And to do that requires that on the board of SNIC, workers' representation, which has been increased with the implementation of Act 776, remain focused and above board. As you speak, TUC has representation. One of the members on the SNIC board, who is supposed to be a representative of organized labor, and I understand that organized labor had no hand in that person's nomination, as well as on the board of the National Pensions Regulatory, also someone who organized labor states that they had no hand in the selection. And these two people are not fit to be on the board. They are not fit in accordance with the company's code, and particularly in respect of Section 177, which restrains fraudulent persons from managing companies. So the TUC has some house cleaning to do. It has some house cleaning to do, but you see, the disappointment on pensions are not what should not be mentioned through public declarations. It's important that organized labor meets over this matter and puts pen to paper and calls a meeting of the tripartite committee, where Ghana Employers Association is also represented, to address these serious issues. Because for 2 years, what the president has promised for those who left in the year 2020 has not been delivered. And if workers have difficulty with living, how much more pensioners? So these are some of the critical issues. But when I say pension depends on a factor of one's income, Look, in June 2020, the Professor Yan Tiamwa report on the Committee of Emoluments for Article 71 office holders urged government to take urgent steps to address the disparities in salaries of public sector workers so that workers will work in dignity, please underline dignity. And it said also that whatever increase workers are given, what is given to the president and others should not be more than what is given to workers. Are workers leaders saying that they don't know of this recommendation? I'll be surprised if they say they don't. But they have not acted on the June 2020 report. Because this should have been the trump card the workers should have been flagging, and particularly workers leaders.
Mr. Blow, so do you think that addressing the emoluments of Article 71 office holders will in any way positively impact the salaries of public sector workers and subsequently their take-home pension?
You see, what the report was saying, when he called on government to take urgent steps to address disparities, in addressing the disparities, relativities would have been addressed and it would have closed the gap somehow.
Okay.
And workers would have had substantial improvement in their earnings. So this is important for organized labor leadership to focus on. I'm saying that they know what I'm talking about. The report, they know why they have shied away from it for this long. This my understanding.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Seth Abloso. I'll be with you in a moment again. But let me go back to Mr. Chum. Mr. Chum, if you're still there.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Mr. Chum, the other thing I just wanted you to address in the submissions...
Before that, can I react to few things that are said,
yeah.
please? Yeah. I think I don't know where Seth got his figures of the alleged monies that have been stolen from SNET.
Right.
And I'm beginning to believe that is about 20 years ago, as he said, 2000. Okay. And I'm deeply sorry why 2000 issues can be brought into this conversation. That was then. Then means that at the time, SNET was not being regulated. SNET was regulating itself. But from 2010 to date, SNET is being regulated by the National Pensions Regulatory Authority, of which where I work. And I can tell you for a fact that we have very pragmatic measures that we use in checking what we call in our business compliance effort to look into the books of every single institution, not only SNET. We have about 22 other corporate institutions that sell pension products like SNET that we forcibly, when they default, in the regulations and guidelines that we have put in place, we drag them to court, or we fine them, or we have means of sanctioning them. So that cannot be said today. I'm sorry, right. Mr. Abudo is bringing this in today.
Mr.
But I can also say, 1 minute, I can also say for a fact, from where I sit, that SNET doesn't owe any pensioner in this country, as per what we have put in place.
Is that true, Mr. Chum?
Yes, please.
SNET doesn't owe any pensioner?
No, not at all, up to date. SNET doesn't owe any pensioner. SNET has not defaulted in paying any pensioner in this country. If somebody will say SNET has defaulted paying the person can walk to my office. Right. By 20th, 17th is when they normally pay out. But when it falls on weekends, latest by 20th, SNET has to pay you. SNET has paid everybody that is on its payroll. As I speak, it has about 1.7 million people on the payroll, and SNET does the payment every time that there's a need for it. Senate doesn't owe anybody. So investment that Mr. Brodo is talking about doesn't come in here.
Right.
If you are a pensioner, your business is to sit down in your home or your office or elsewhere and see that Senate has paid you.
Right.
Senate has done very faithful in terms of investment. We have looked into their books. When we were not comfortable with their investments, we provided investment guidelines for them. And quite recently, about 2 months ago, we had a meeting with them, the hierarchy of Senate, and then we reviewed the investment guidelines for them, of which Senate cannot invest outside those guidelines. So that is it. Mr. Ablodo was also talking about people that have been paid or not. I think what he is referring to is not 2 years. It's just last year when the president promised that he was going to top up those who have short chain. And it was difficult because it was a transitional issue. It was when we were moving from the Act 247 to the 766. People who were, that is the time that we called decumulation. That was the time that we have started paying people who were being first paid under the 766. So there were some transitional issues. So the president said that there should be a committee, and the committee was set. I sat in the inauguration of the committee. The committee has presented its report, and the report is being reviewed. As soon as it is done, payment will be done. So that is not also an issue for me now. These are some of the few things that I want to clarify before you ask your question,
Yes,
Madam.
me too, I'll just, yeah, I'll ask my question in a moment. But please, gentlemen, give me a moment.
Hello?
Yes, I'll come to you in a moment. I just want to, for our viewers, our phone lines, 020-4738-481. Again, 020-4738-481 and 0550-331511. Again, 0550-331511. But let me come back to you, Mr. Chum. I mean, you're saying those figures cannot be brought into this conversation. But shouldn't we be worried also, beyond waiting and being concerned about the monies that are paid to us at the end of the month? Shouldn't we be worried about where these monies are invested? Because at the end of the day, if that creates a loss or wastage, then it affects the pensioner, doesn't it? Also, let me just...
It is not wastage. Whatever the economic guys will understand what I'm going to say. Whenever you make investments everywhere in this country under any circumstance, there are certain times not all the investment that you have done will be profitable. Right. But I speak to you now. Senate has 98% of profitable investment, and the threshold for every investor is about 3%. If you go over 3%, then it means your investment is not holding up properly. But Senate is under 3%. It is at 1.7%. And I can say here with authority and from where I sit, what I know about Senate as an institution that I regulate, that Senate's investment is doing very well this time. And that is why I'm saying that let us shift from the history and then look at what is pertaining now. Right. The 20 years time that we're talking about, perhaps the management has changed about 3 times. And that was the time that I also want to emphasize that Senate was regulating itself. And for now, I can say again that Senate doesn't owe any pensioner in this country. It is up to date. If it owes anybody, we from the MPRA will take action against Senate.
Right, you're talking about, what is pertaining now, but we also know that in the 2020 Auditor General's report, there were some amounts that were mentioned to have been lost, an equivalent of 11.79 million US dollars. That's 70,814,000 basically. I think somewhere along the line there was a release that some of these monies are being investigated and retrieved, but don't these things create questions? Doesn't this, what this comes out into the public reads this, and then they wonder what exactly is going on, that such huge sums are being lost. Would this be part of the 3% that you're talking about?
I didn't say 3%. I said 3% is the threshold of investment.
But for Senate, it's 98%, so there's some 2% there.
But Senate is operating by way of investment profit below 3%, which is within the threshold. That's what I said.
Right.
But what I'm interested in is for the books, for the Senate books that we as MPRA, the regulator for the pension industry in this country, have looking quite recently is perfect. And
Hey, perfect.
that is why, yes, and that
Okay.
is why we continue to look at what they are doing by way of
Right.
supervision and compliance, so
Right.
that they do what is necessary, and that will benefit people who have invested in their care.
Thank you, Mr. Chum. Let me just go to Seth. He's been wanting to
Yes.
say something, please.
Yes. Quickly, the figures that I quoted are from the forensic audit report, forensic audit commissioned by the Ministry of Finance. At that time, Yao Sakomako was the Minister for Finance. And this audit was conducted by Deloitte and Touche, Worldwide Investment, and other consultants. And I made a copy of this report available in a letter to NPRA and urged them to take steps to study the report and retrieve those money.
Right.
I had a telephone call from NPRA. Someone called me and asked if they could meet with me. I said yes. That was all. But the point I'm making is that we can't say that monies that are come back that predate NPRA can be left wrong to just go away.
No, I'm not saying that. I won't say that. I'm not saying that.
So that the point I'm making is that this is so much, and you need to find that report. If you can't find a copy, get my number and let me know. I'll make a copy available to you.
Okay.
And make a copy of the letter I wrote to NPRA that did nothing about what I'm talking about.
Right.
Because you see, if SNIT is paying workers monthly, workers don't need to be satisfied that they are getting their money monthly. They need to be concerned about what investments are being made, what loans are being written off, and for what reason. Because you see, the report also has identified political interference and bad management as some of the reasons for the problems of SNIT. Because if things were done better than they are being done, SNIT could pay better pensions. SNIT could pay better pensions. Yes, essentially better pensions. Why do you think that, in spite of the declaration that there will be unification of pensions, and the Vice President inaugurated a committee to work towards the unification of pensions, some public sector workers refused to be part of it, and they were exempted.
Right.
It will tell you something. It will tell you something that, in particular, SNIT is not meeting the expectations of several workers.
Thank you, Seth. Thank you, Seth. Should I just take that as your closing remarks? We're almost out of time.
Yeah, but essentially, what I want to add is that SNIT belongs to workers, the members who contribute to it.
Yeah.
And it's important that they wake up to the realization that the money is there. I've heard a call on government to scrap SNIT. No. SNIT can be made to do better. And organized labor leaders need to be focused on making SNIT function better.
Thank you so much, Seth. I'll go to Michael for his last remarks there. Michael, if you're there.
Yes, really, I appreciate the contribution of my friend from NPRA, and I love the defense that he gave when the other colleague made mention of owings by SNIT. I wish he would have used the same energy, and I would like to know, and probably you should put it to him, what NPRA is doing about our tax credit, because that is very dear to us. They are unaware of this. They are not unaware of this matter.
Yeah.
They are in the know that
Right.
SNIT owes us the past credit, and I wish that he would have really addressed that issue.
Right. He will definitely respond to that before he goes. So let me come to you, Mr. Chum. For your closing remarks, it would be nice if you could give some response to that, because earlier in the discussion he mentioned arrears since 2010, which is supposed to be given to the Tier 2 managers. What is the delay there?
I think I mentioned it briefly in my earlier submission, and I said that a committee was set up, which was inaugurated by the then senior minister, Mr. Osafo, and then the issue was about the calculation. And the trade unions were in there, among other institutions and organizations, and they all agreed. I think it became what I want to put as litigation regarding what numbers that we can use by way of the formula. But so when they finally agreed on the percentage of the past credit, a memorandum of understanding was signed. And that was what I said. It's part of the report that has been sent to the presidency for study. And I believe that as soon as this is done, all will be well with past credit. Past credit has been resolved.
Is there a time frame to this? Because this is an ongoing thing. It's been there for years, and there's
I think in the last meeting that I sat, I think in the next couple of months. Next couple of months.
So before the end of the year?
Definitely.
Right, thank you. I think that's a response there for Michael Ayuriboya. Before the end of the year, Mr. Chum is saying, so we'll hold him to that. So thank you, Nana Sifa Chum, who's Corporate Affairs Manager of the National Pensions Regulatory Authority. Thank you to Seta Bloso, who is a labor analyst. Michael Ayuriboya, who is Deputy Secretary of the National Association of Graduate Teachers, also joined us. We're grateful for your time. Dr. Eric Oduro Osai was supposed to join us. He was unable to do that. But thank you so much, especially to you at home who joined us. On behalf of everyone here at MX24 Television, thank you. Good evening.